Well, welcome to episode 24. We have a very special guest, evolutionaries. I'm so excited to have Trevor Kirczenow here today with us. And he's going to be talking about the liberal platform for the environment and telling us a little bit about himself and how he got going. And I'm just super, super glad to have him. So he's the liberal candidate for the Provencher area in Manitoba. Welcome, Kurt. Trevor, how are you doing?
I'm well, thank you. Thanks for having me on today.
Excellent, excellent. Well, it's very exciting. We've been trying to book this for a little bit now, so I know you're super busy. Why don't you tell me a little bit first, or tell all of us about yourself and why did you come into politics and why are you doing this?
Sure. So I am 36 years old. I have two kids that are 10 and 6 and a husband. And we live on a small farm just outside of the town of Dugald in Manitoba. We have Ojibwe horses here, are a critically rare breed. They are Canada's only Indigenous developed horse breed. So that's one of my many interests.
That's
Has to do
exciting.
with preserving genetic diversity within the horse species. So this breed is a really important part of that. And we also raise goats, turkeys, and chickens here.
Nice. Are they free-run chickens or do you have them pinned up?
No. No, they're not penned up. They are doing a really important job right now, which is they're dealing with the grasshopper infestation that a lot of us are suffering from.
I can't even walk in my yard without being pelted in the face with grasshopper bodies.
Well, a few years ago, the grasshoppers started to get really bad. Like this is not the first year that we've been suffering from this, and a few years ago, the grasshoppers, they devastated our fruit trees. They killed a number of our young fruit trees. They killed our grapevines. And we wanted to try again. We wanted to protect the fruit trees that we still had. And so we already had some chickens, but we really massively expanded how many we had, and we added turkeys. What we've been finding is that the young turkeys, they are so good at catching grasshoppers. Like they're amazing. So
You know what's really awesome at grasshopper catching? Also is the Muscovy ducks. Muscovies are awesome. They'll just chase them down. They'll do that with mice too, actually. They'll just chase until they catch them. Yeah.
I don't have any of those yet at our place, but yeah, the turkeys are really incredible. And so this year we did restart grapevines, and they are surviving so far and actually doing really well. So that's nice to see. That was just so sad to see all of that go. But yeah, I've done a lot of different things. I also have a background in health research. I led a health research project a few years ago, looking at the experiences of transgender people with building their families. And I've also been really active in diabetes advocacy in the past year, especially. And we managed to be successful in getting a small positive change with the advocacy work that we were doing. So
Excellent.
previously, Manitoba had no pharmacare coverage for continuous glucose monitors, which is a really important life-saving device for someone who is needing to use insulin.
Yes.
And our grassroots group, it was just a group of parents and individuals affected by type 1 diabetes. We succeeded in persuading our provincial government to change that. And they announced in the most recent budget that they will provide coverage at least up to the age of 25. Now,
Well,
I
that's
wish
something to
that it
help the
had been,
youth then and
yeah,
parents.
I wish that it had been all ages. It really should be all ages,
Yeah.
because especially diabetes doesn't magically go away when you turn 25, and those complications they increase as time goes on, and then you need the tools to manage even more.
Well, I know that, like, for type 1, just so as our viewers understand, type 1 is, you didn't choose this. You didn't have a bad diet. There was nothing that you did to have this. You had type 1 because you had type 1. And you don't have a choice in making it better with diet or environment or any of those things. So that's why there's a distinction here. And I just wanted to kind of bring that out because some viewers would want to know why you wouldn't be going for all diabetics to have coverage,
You
right?
know what? Actually, we were. What we were asking
Okay.
for was CGM coverage for anybody who's using insulin, regardless of type 1 or type 2 or gestational diabetes. And the more that health researchers start to understand about diabetes, the more they realize it's a lot more complex than type 1 and type 2. There are some really rare forms of diabetes out there as well, that don't quite fall into those categories. And even with dealing with type 2, there is a genetic component there as well. And once somebody needs to use insulin, they are at risk of suffering from those severe low blood sugar events or from severe high blood sugar events. And when you have a CGM, you can see what's going on. You can see what your blood sugars are doing. So regardless of the reason that you need insulin, it's just such a helpful management tool to make
Yes.
diabetes decisions. So
Absolutely. So, diabetes actually is quite a bit in my family. I do have type 1 and type 2. And we have some that managed to get off all forms of it with good diet.
yeah.
The person with type 1 was my auntie. She passed away last year. So,
Oh, I'm
um,
so
she
sorry.
actually didn't find out it was type 1. It was assumed it was type 2 for many years until they actually tested her. They
Oh,
just assumed
that's
it.
so sad. I hear that over and over again, and
Yeah.
I think again, that that kind of bias that we have of thinking about it like, "Oh, it's juvenile diabetes, it's something that kids get,"
Yeah.
that that also played into this government's decision to only cover up to age 25 because they think about it as something that affects children, but in fact,
And
it's
it's
an
not.
autoimmune disease. And I
Yep.
know somebody who got diagnosed at the age of 38. Like,
Yeah.
that happens.
Well, she found out the year she passed, she was 72.
Oh
72
my
years old, she found out it was type 1. I know. And she'd been dealing
wow.
with it for years, but I mean, they were treating her as a type 2, which is different, right?
It is,
And yeah, so,
yeah.
and it probably led to a whole bunch of other problems, like especially for her heart, and
Absolutely,
everything else.
absolutely, because with people with type 2 diabetes, they really try to avoid needing to go on insulin. So they will suggest that first you try lifestyle changes and try exercise, try modifying
Yeah,
your diet, and then there are a number of oral medications that people can sometimes use successfully to manage type 2 diabetes. But if
yeah.
that whole time, if what she needed was insulin because her body wasn't
She
producing enough
did,
of it,
and she did more damage to her body because of it. Yeah,
oh,
exactly.
I'm so sorry. That is
No, that's
brutal.
okay. Yeah, it is brutal. Yeah, absolutely. So I understand what you're saying wholeheartedly in our family. And then, of course, my dad also passed, and he was type 2 diabetes, and he lost his kidneys.
I'm so
So
sorry. Gosh.
yeah, yeah. So but early intervention might have helped him as well, and that wasn't discovered till quite late, and he had already
Yeah,
had damage.
and again, that's where it's such a simple device, a continuous glucose monitor. Watching right now aren't familiar with what it is. It's a wearable technology that you just put it on yourself one time every 10 days, and you get to keep wearing it during those 10 days, and then it reads your blood sugar every 5 minutes.
Oh. Wow.
And
So you get a good sense of where you're at with different foods and things too.
yes, yeah, I mean, it gives you graphs of your blood sugar. So it's
Nice.
completely different from the old technology where you prick your finger one
Yes.
time and then you find out what your blood sugar is at one point in time, but you don't know
Yeah.
if it's going up or going down. So actually, it can be really helpful for diagnosis as well. Like, it can just make that so much
Boy,
faster.
and who wants to keep poking and poking and poking to figure out to graph themselves, right?
Right.
So, but I know my aunt actually, I found her journals. She actually did that. She graphed herself by poking. And I'll tell you something, she had records for years, for like multiple times a day, trying to figure out, I guess, where she was going wrong. Like this is, how she was trying to deal with her diabetes. And it was very sad because it just turned out to be, it was type 1, and that, it wasn't as related to her environment and her diet and all those things, right? There was not much that could be gleaned that way, right? So very sad for her, but I applaud the work you're doing, because all the people in the community that have diabetes needs good advocates that can stand out there and tell, do that kind of research and also get those kind of policies passed. So congratulations to you on that, and thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, the research aspect, both when it comes to health and medical technology, and also the environment, I think it's just so important to make use of the latest that's there and to fund important research that's going on.
Absolutely, and that's my next thing. So I know wholeheartedly. I own Evolve Green, and I actually was at your house and did estimate. You guys are into green personally, and you're also with the federal policies as well. So is that some of what drove you to the Liberals? Is their policy? Did you just get attracted to the fact that they had the same kind of mindset as you? Like, explain.
Yes, absolutely. For me, overall, the Liberal Party is the best fit in terms of policies. I also appreciate a lot of things about the NDP and the Green Party as well. Like, let's be honest, that's where I'm at. But yes, for me,
and that's okay too. I think that's, a lot of people are actually drawn that way. They like little aspects of the NDP. They like aspects of the Green Party. I know one of the things with the Green Party, I usually, I love their stance on things. I always feel that they want to do too much economically at once. Because you do have to. There has to be a stepped rollout for everything you do, I believe.
Yes,
and then you have to measure the success, because maybe your rollout needed to be changed too.
Right. And the Liberal Party is the party with the track record, especially now, of having actually rolled out some pretty amazing programs, and those are programs that I really want to see keep going.
I really do too. So just recently, let's talk about a few of those. We have the agriculture one. So for farms.
Multiple.
So,
oh my goodness.
Absolutely.
There are so many agriculture programs. It's not one program. It's
No, yeah. So up to 50% funding is the one I'm talking about right now. That one is serviced for this year, but you can still submit applications for up to 50% in energy efficiency on the farm. That can be producing, storing,
That one is called the Agricultural Clean Technology Program. Just if somebody's trying to find, hey, how do I find information about that particular program? Yeah.
And then they had the Greener Home Program. That's pretty amazing. Now it's just starting. It rolled out in June, I think, but it's going to take time because it has an energy evaluator component. So, do you want to talk about the Greener Home?
Yeah, for sure. So that is a grant for homeowners of up to $5,000, and it can cover all sorts of things: insulation, air sealing, replacing windows and doors, heat pumps. It can cover solar panels, and it can also go towards resiliency measures, like batteries, foundation waterproofing, and roofing membranes. So there's a whole lot of things that it can do, and there's a lot of excitement about that program, to the point where its website crashed temporarily at first when it first came online, because so many people were excited about it and looking at it.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I actually applied for it myself. In our case, we're probably going to get a new heating system for ground source heat pump, because I already have solar and storage. So just saying.
Yeah.
But it is exciting. A lot of my clients are extremely excited about it as well. But what I love about it is the inclusiveness of it. So let's talk about this. There's multiple programs. So if one program doesn't fit you, there is 100% grant matching for Indigenous communities, for healing centers, for the RMs. There's 50% matching for community spaces. There's the farm grants, and there's a few of them, as you mentioned, up to 50% funding matches there. And then there's the Greener Home program, which is so inclusive. So windows, doors, solar, of course, storage, heating systems. It's amazing. What I love about it is it takes that broader view of helping people to get more fortified for their future and reduce their energy consumption and their bills, which is helping Canadians live in a more streamlined fashion, really, like less cost to them, helping them adopt the technologies that will help them achieve those goals.
Yeah, and I think when we talk about moving to a green economy, this is a huge part of it, because when you think about all the people that are going to have access to these new technologies, well, they are also going to be hiring people to do this work, right? So that is a lot of jobs being
It
created.
is. And what I liked is when you roll it out federally, it goes across all of Canada. So it's just like the no interest loan through CMHC that's coming up to $40,000, which was a part of the election platform last time for the federals, for the Liberals. And it's coming. It's right around the corner. They're going to be launching that one right away too. And it's amazing because all of these programs are intended to just help people and inject into the economy and make jobs. Nothing but jobs. And this is a time when, this was planned before the pandemic. Let's be fair here. I knew about all of these plans, or most of them anyways, before, because it was a part of the last election platform. So there was a delayed rollout, and they did have a minority government, so let's be fair. Because minority governments, in case you don't know, you can't actually just roll things out. People have to agree with you from other parties, which isn't always easy and it isn't always quick, right?
Right. Yeah, and with things that can be done kind of simply federally, those kinds of programs have been going a little more quickly, but then beyond just the minority government, there are also it's a real challenge on programs that require provincial and territorial cooperation as well, right? So
yes, correct. Yeah.
this a good example of this is when we talk about national pharmacare. This frustrates me a little bit about the NDP is they just say, well, we're going to do it. We're going to do national pharmacare. And they make it sound so simple, like you would just snap your fingers and it would happen. And it's like, well, right now, pharmacare is provincial. So that's going to require working with the provinces and the territories and getting that cooperation and making it happen together. So it's in the Liberal platform as well as the NDP platform. But it's not going to be an easy task to make that happen.
Well, that was also in the Liberal platform, right? Let's be fair. So it's not like it isn't being looked at. It's not like it isn't going to happen. It is going to happen because I personally haven't seen anything you guys haven't said, hey, we want to do this, and have it not started or not rolled out, or you know what I mean? Like especially like to the environment anyways.
There's been a ton of background research and work done at looking at that in particular, at looking at pharmacare. But if we talk about some of the other federal, provincial, territorial programs, I think agri-stability is a really good one to look at as an example of this, of how challenging it can be to get that kind of cooperation across the country. So, and that is a program that we really need right now when we're facing climate extremes. So what
Yes.
agri-stability does is it functions as a bit of a buffer for farmers, so that um, when there's a particularly bad year, things don't collapse, right? Like there's
Yeah,
some insurance there
yes,
for our farmers. And this year is one of those
it
terrible,
is.
terrible years for sure.
Absolutely. Across the
Yeah,
prairies, it's just been a nightmare
yeah,
unfolding, really. And we're going to have food prices that are going to spike coming into the next year
we
because
are.
the ramifications of this drought year. And if we head into another drought year, it's just going to be incredible. So the farmers will need that kind of support.
Yeah, and I mean, like we're at a point now where we can talk about net zero emissions and getting to those, and we can adopt green technology and do all that stuff and make great progress. But to be honest, we also need to the climate change is already occurring. Like it's here. I think we are seeing it right now. So we need strong programs like agri-stability.
Hey, Trevor, you actually just went really muffled. If you want to just check your mic. There we go.
Um,
Yeah, no, it's okay
better?
now. Perfect.
Okay. Sorry about that.
That's okay. We're going to take a break and we're going to go to commercial because we've got some of our sponsors we need to talk about. So, and then from there, we've got after we come back from that, I would like to expand on the farmers and the environment. So if you don't mind, we'll just hold for that. And we're going to go to sponsors from AETI. If you want to learn how to become a renewable expert on your own and get into your new career, check out AETI. They are Canadians' own school for learning about renewables. Here we go. Welcome back, evolutionaries. We're just also going to acknowledge one of our other sponsors, which is Evolve Green. Hello, my name is Loretta Mitchell, owner of Evolve Green. And here at Evolve Green, we take the environment very seriously. We have a 10 kilowatt solar system that offsets our main facility by 75%. As well as maintaining natural prairie on our grounds. Our mission, creating renewables that work for you. I started Evolve Green in 2008 with a passion for the environment and wanting to change my corner of the world. And that remains the same today. Through design, consult, and installation, we provide renewable energy systems and storage integration. Here at Evolve Green, we help Canadians rethink power and storage to help fortify our children's future. To learn more, visit evolvegreen.ca. Welcome back, evolutionaries. We're talking with Trevor right now, who is the Liberal candidate for Provencher here in Manitoba. And that's very exciting. But we did want to talk about one more of our sponsors, very special, CM Engrave. He does Lamicoid labels and he does trophies. And one of the things that he is doing is he's sponsoring ASTV trophies for our amateur athletes, which is just so exciting. Please take a look.
At CM Engrave, we create more than just trophies, medals, and signs. We create time for family, time for growing your business, time for the moments that make you, you. With more than 30 years experience for all your engraving needs. CM Engrave.
Great. Welcome back, everybody. So we're talking with Trevor, and we're going to be talking more about the drought conditions and what the Liberal government is proposing to help with our farmers, because, you know, food prices are going to go up as a result. Decrease in food always does that. And if we hit into a second year of drought, I mean, our farmers, they really need support. Hi, Trevor. Welcome back. So, I mean, we were just discussing the drought. So talk to us more about that plan, because you actually were phasing out a little bit as you were discussing what the plan is.
One program that has just been, well, restored, I guess, is the right way to talk about it, is agri-stability. Because under Harper, there were cuts made to that program. And I think it's important for people to understand that it's a lot easier to cut something than it is to build something. And because agri-stability is a federal territorial program, there have been some big challenges trying to restore agri-stability. And actually, our provincial agriculture minister in Manitoba delayed and delayed and delayed, even as farm groups across the province were asking him to accept the federal minister's proposal and to improve agri-stability. Finally happened just recently. So farmers will get more support that way, and they sure need it right now.
They absolutely do. It's devastating, especially as, you know, I mean, really, I mean, we could talk all day about farms, but the rapidly disappearing family farm. This is, I know there's a grassroots project where we're seeing the small farms popping again, which is exciting. They don't have the resources that some of these large farms do, but for a long time there, we were seeing them disappear so fast, so fast, because they just couldn't make enough ends meet. And what they did make was being taxed incredibly, and it didn't take into, to balance, you know what I mean? The fact that they had to then invest in their next year in order to have a next year.
Right. Well, there are a whole lot of amazing programs that have been rolled out pretty recently and that are available now to help farmers. So one thing that I'm really excited about, we already talked about some of the clean technology, but there's also the Agriculture Climate Solutions Program. And in between those two programs, the federal government is funding about in new direct support to farmers. So this is going towards supporting farmers for projects like shelter belts, using more cover crops, and other management solutions like rotational grazing and nitrogen management that are going to really help us to cope with these climate extremes of drought and flooding that we're now seeing. So I think that's really important and amazing support. And what I'm hoping for in this upcoming election is that we can be reelected and that these programs can keep going. I'm personally really scared of the prospect of cuts to some of these programs. Also,
I did notice that a competitor was doing the old playbook of, we're going to cut taxes. But indeed, you cut taxes and then you cut services and social services. And social services, I mean, we're not talking about just small programs here. We're talking about programs to keep our farmers afloat. We're talking about ways to create efficiencies on the farm, on Indigenous communities, on efficiencies and independence, right? Because these are pretty comprehensive programs that if they want to gain independence, they can do that too, and fortify themselves so they can keep going if there's, weather issues and all of these other things. So, these kinds of things are what we reduce how much they have to spend. Then, if they have a drought year like this, it's not as impactful to their budget to keep going for the next year, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah, and that it's going to be more and more important as we continue to cope with the effects of climate change. And I don't see how the Conservative Party could address what we're dealing with right now. The Conservative Party membership recently voted against acknowledging that climate change is real. I don't see how we can address something if we're not acknowledging that it's real. It's pretty basic and crucial, and I find there are a lot of inconsistencies in their newly released platform, which includes an enormous amount of spending, and yet they're always the party that is talking about balancing the budget and talking about cutting taxes, and it doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, well, I mean, I know here in Manitoba, they cut 1% off the PST, but then they increased property tax for elders. So, I mean, I don't even know where to begin there. So you take away from one and you give to the others. So it's like a sleight of hand move, if you ask me. So they didn't actually lose anything in doing what they were doing. So I get a little bit abrasive when we talk about just cutting taxes, but then we're cutting programs. Then we've also got a wage freeze here in Manitoba. I'm sorry, I know we're flipping from Manitoba to federal, but I'm just saying what the playbook is here, and we have seen in the past when they do come when a power comes in that is just cutting taxes, and what happens and who's going to be affected with the cut of taxes. So like here in Manitoba, we've got a wage freeze for nurses through a pandemic. Do you know these nurses were offered $8,000 a week USD in the heart of the pandemic to go into the US and help people with COVID? Do you know here they didn't even pay everybody who was dealing with COVID? They would go, oh, well, you only had 2 patients, so you don't get the extra pay or something like that. So, there's always a caveat there. And I think you got to look at the fine print too.
You sure do.
Yeah.
And I think talking about what's happened in the province of Manitoba is very relevant. We seen during the pandemic firsthand the result of cuts to healthcare. And I think we all know how incredibly harmful that's been. Now is not the time for cuts. We can see it at the federal level with some of the environmental programs. Under Stephen Harper, there were cuts to shelter belt programs, and he actually closed the Indian Head Tree Nursery in 2012. Yes. Now that nursery used to supply seedlings in Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba. And now our Liberal government is committed to planting 2 billion trees over the next 10 years. And people say, well, how are you going to do that?
If you don't have a nursery. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, that is part of it, is that, for the first few years, we're not going to be able to plant as many trees, but the plan is to really ramp that up. But yes, like we've got to reestablish some trees. We need the seedlings to plant, right? Like that, it takes some time. And again, I think it's an example of when you make a cut like that and you close a program. First off, there were millions of seedlings that were immediately put at risk when that happened, because they just suddenly weren't being taken care of. And then it's harder to restart something like that. Yeah. Oh my goodness, is that just a kitten?
It is.
Oh
yeah. They're 8 weeks old. Oh. Aren't they sweet?
Yeah. Oh my
So
God.
yeah, this is Knox actually. He was just snuggling in my back, and I'm moving farther and farther off my chair here as we're speaking, because I have 3 of them behind me. Sorry, I was just moving him over. So I think we have to have that kind of fullness in our plans when we go forward, as any country does. So if we're going to take from somewhere, let's say we're going to cut taxes, how do you expect to pay for some of these social services if you're not cutting those services? I don't think this is the time to do that. This is pandemic time. I think we're still got a fourth wave, and probably more after that. And we're going to have to learn as a society how to live. We have to restart this economy because, a lot of people were without work. There's been some amazing federal programs and provincial programs out there. I can't spit it out. Sorry. Not enough coffee yet. But, and that's helped some companies keep afloat. But let's be fair, a lot of companies went away. We need to get this economy going in the right direction, get people trained in the right way so that we can get these programs back up and running and get people back working as well.
Yeah. There's one pretty local issue that we haven't talked about yet, but that I've been hearing about a lot from constituents actually on a daily basis.
Oh, what's that?
And it's the proposed silica sand mine.
Right. Yeah.
Field. People are really worried about how that silica sand mine could possibly affect our water. Now, the Liberal Party recognizes that water is our most important resource.
Yes.
There is nothing more important than water. Nothing. And we've really seen that over the course of this drought, especially. But I think this is something that we are recognizing more and more. There is a new federal water protection program that's currently being developed. It's kind of in process of being developed. It hasn't been fully developed yet. But what I'm hearing from constituents is people are worried that the province is maybe not looking at the silica sand mine carefully enough, because it does involve work in our aquifers, in our drinking water, and there was kind of the more rigorous environmental assessment by the province, not required, which doesn't give me a whole lot of confidence. And I mean, that's my drinking water too. That's my well water.
So how do we know that nothing will happen if there is no documented way to understand what this process is?
I don't know the answer to that.
So we have to have an environmental impact. And I think we need, as people, I live in this area too, by the way, right? Not very far away from you. Our aquifers, I think, different, but they did actually scope over our area as well here in Marchand, Manitoba.
The aquifer is huge. It is
true.
Huge. Actually, I believe it is the same aquifer. It extends down into Minnesota.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that. Huge. Interesting.
Yeah. If
so potentially could even, so this could potentially impact all of Provencher area.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It's a massive area, or really most of it. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So it's so it's
something that everybody should be concerned about, talking about environmental impact in this area.
I think so. And I mean, so far the assessment that's been done, it's been paid for by the company itself.
Yeah.
So for me, I feel like, well, that obviously the company wants the project to go ahead, right?
I think there has to be an independent audit in that. So, I think an independent company should be brought in to audit the process that they're planning to do and the environmental impact of that process.
Yeah, I mean, the company, what the province told the company to do instead of a thorough provincial assessment, was that the company should hold a public open house and answer questions.
What What I didn't like is they could literally go on anybody's property. When they were first looking, they had a huge swath, and our land was included. All they had to do was agree to restore. How do you restore my forest? I live in a forest.
Well, the RM of Taché said, no, get out. we don't want you here. They were trying to, I think they wanted to remove quite a bit of water through a well there near Lorette, and the residents there opposed, and the council at the RM of Taché said no. Legally, they don't actually have the right to say no to that, but thankfully
they did.
People spoke up and really strongly voiced their opposition, and so the company did not do that kind of exploration there.
Listen, why don't they go to crown land too? Like, why does it have to? I know they were actually looking at people's properties.
Right.
And a lot of people didn't want them anywhere near their properties because, like I said, we're all forest out here. How do you restore our forest? You don't.
Right. But I mean, also, do we want that happening to Crown land too?
No, I'm not saying they shouldn't have this. I'm not saying we shouldn't have the environmental impact that we just spoke about done independently to understand it better. But I'm just saying that I know from the perspective of being a resident here, I felt really uncomfortable that they could come and scope out my property and essentially take my rights away from it. You know what I mean? Not right. That you shouldn't be able to do that. And quite frankly, I don't really like that we don't have the right that everything is just surfaced. I don't know how many people understand that, but you're actually not. If you dig in the ground here or anything above in the sky, it doesn't belong to you. I think you should have more right over that. So,
and
but you
what,
don't.
What does that?
It's like you're paying for and borrowing your property. That's what it amounts to.
Right. And what does that silica sand do for our water that we drink? It's part of that filtration. It cleans the water. So there's incredible value to that for our drinking water. And that's, I'm not saying that I'm an expert on that. I'm not. I do not have the scientific background.
Well, no, but that's why we hire experts to do those things. And I don't either. I wouldn't be able to perform that type of environmental impact either. But I think it's valuable to not have somebody who's invested in its success doing that impact, Right. So it should be somebody like a firm that's completely independent that can do this type of impact report to know exactly what's going to happen to that aquifer. We are known for 100,000 bodies of water here in Manitoba. We have water, yes, but it can be damaged. Look at Lake Winnipeg. I mean, Lake Winnipeg is almost nearly unpotable, which is scary because the city of Winnipeg gets their stuff from Shoal Lake, and they're going to need water soon because that's drying up. And is in bad shape. So the reason why Winnipeg's water tastes bad is because things are turning bad. That whole infrastructure is going to have to change soon. And where are you going to go if Lake Winnipeg's not there? Because that's your best resource. That's the 10th largest freshwater lake in the entire world. Why aren't we protecting this better?
Yeah, and I think the federal has a role to play here. Especially if the province is maybe dropping the ball a little bit.
Well, and also if you're providing monies for this type of, checks and balances to happen, like it's all about where the money goes. I mean, a lot of people talk about how they don't like that renewables are being subsidized. Well, wait a minute. Oil and gas has been subsidized right from the beginning. So if we take their subsidy off, and you call it carbon tax right now, wait till you see the subsidy off of oil and gas. You guys are just going to have your head spin. And that's just the natural, because they're always saying, well, you shouldn't tax that. Let's talk about carbon tax. You know what? It goes to helping to pay for these environmental impacts and these environmental programs to help farmers sustain themselves through droughts and all of these things that it's helping to pay for, the Greener Home program, and all of those things that are going to help every single Canadian and jumpstart our economy. So it's kind of like we're throwing everything in a general pool to help all of Canada.
Yeah, and I mean, yes, a proper, thorough environmental assessment, it's going to cost money, sure, but is it worth it?
Absolutely.
I think so.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. No, I couldn't agree more with you, Trevor. I think what you're doing is amazing. I think your head is in the right space. I've known you for years, you and your partner and your family, beautiful little family and a farm in Oakbank. Well, not Oakbank, actually, it's Dugald, right? Yeah. I know. I was just thinking Oakbank area, right? But yeah, I know. I was envisioning it. I know you're right off of the highway there. You know, I love what you're doing, and I love you're so young too. You're only 36. I'm sorry. I'm 52. Sorry, Trevor. I'm an old lady now, so grandmother. But I mean, like, so to me, you're very young, getting into politics, and of course, you've got to have a whole lot of water off a duck's back when you go into politics to begin with. So hats off to you.
Oh, thank you. Well, I'm the kind of person that when I see something that I feel like maybe I could help in some way, I want to do that.
Yeah.
I became involved in diabetes because my own child was diagnosed with type 1, and the day that he was diagnosed at the hospital, the doctor was asking us about our private health insurance, and I was shocked. Yeah, I was shocked. I had no idea how expensive.
Shocked that babies aren't covered. Like, are we serious now that we're not saving children? Are we kidding? That's life-saving stuff.
It is life-saving. And for my family, we are fortunate that we have good private health insurance through my partner's work. We are very lucky, but not everybody is. And so I really wanted to do something and make a change. And we did. You know, change is possible. It is possible. And the same thing with the health research that I became involved in. I'm a health researcher by training, but I saw a major gap in the academic literature. There was almost no information about transgender people's experiences with building families, and I am transgender.
Yep.
And when I went through that process and had my kids, there was nothing for my therapist to look at, and so I said, I want to change that. And
Yes.
I designed a research study, and we got funding from the institutes, from the CIHR, the Canadian Institutes for Health Research. So we had a major research study, and we helped to fill that gap in the research literature. So I want to be part of the work that I think the Liberal Party is doing. I would love to be a voice for the constituents of Provencher in Ottawa.
Oh, that's so wonderful. Actually, I have a quick little story, and we're gonna leave that with that soon, because Trevor, I know this is your second go at the Provencher, and everything was fairly negative last time in this area, but I know it's expanding and becoming way more positive. I just wanted to share with you. Have you ever heard of Laura Ray? She's a fantastic lady in the city of Winnipeg. She just made Manitoba 150 for ladies who are the top 150 in Manitoba history, doing good work here. And she feeds the homeless every single day.
Wow.
And she is actually transgendered, and she deals with a lot of bias and things that happen. And she talks fairly openly on Facebook as well. But she's an amazing lady. I just wanted to pull out another spectacular lady out there who's doing some awesome work in Manitoba, city of Winnipeg, for the homeless people, and making sure that everybody gets a hot meal every day.
Wow, that's awesome. That is so cool to hear.
absolutely. Trevor, I wish you every success in your writing and how everything's going. And of course, keep knocking on those doors. I know you're a double vax, so hey, that's excellent news. I also am double vax, so Manitobans out there, I know there's a lot of you that are apprehensive about getting the vaccine. I can tell you that I have autoimmune issues, and I went for it, and I did have to deal with a few side effects, not from the vaccine, but from creating the antibodies. And it wasn't that bad, though. And, I feel a lot more confident. I know that 4% can get the Delta virus. I just wanted to throw this in here at the end for people who are answering doors and door knocking. So of the double vax people, 4%, but it's more like a cold, guys. You're not going to die, which is awesome. So go out there, be safe. And
the way that we knock on doors is I'm wearing a mask, I knock on the door, and then I step back right away so that when the person opens the door,
and then you're open air, you guys can talk outside. Yeah, I just wanted to talk about the safety aspect of that for you and for anybody that you're knocking on their doors for, so that people understand, and hopefully that goes very well for you. So thank you so much for coming on the show today to talk about the environment, the farmers, talking about the silica. So you've covered a wide range of topics, and we even covered some diabetes, which isn't really innately what Evolution Greenworks is about, but it is definitely near and dear to my heart as well with my family. And so hopefully we're going to have you back on again in the future, and I wish you every success. Bye, Trevor.
Thank you so much for having me on the show.
Bye. Well, that's it for today's show. I wish Trevor every success in what he's doing. It's just been amazing. Until next time, Evolution Greenworks, we'll see you for episode 25.